be honest, I get it. What other option does he have? Is a guy like him really going to say, all right, truth be told, yeah, I had a hand in all this. Yeah, truth be told, I participated in some things that led to these consequences. He can't. He's got to protect his image. He's got to protect his money. And so I get it. But that just also goes to the character of Puffy Combs. Let's go all the way back to 1997 after Biggie was killed. Was he leading the charge to solve that? Was he putting up $100,000 rewards? Was he telling everybody to cooperate? No, we got dead silent. And so that kind of helps to illustrate, I think, from the beginning till today, he's in a very precarious situation, and he always has been. But he's done well kind of insulating himself with lawyers and, just hoping that this whole thing goes away. I get his position, but I don't respect his character. We all know it's irrefutable fact that him and Suge were at odds, and that his bodyguard, or at least a member of his entourage, was responsible for killing Suge Knight's bodyguard in Atlanta. And then you've had, the quad incident, and then the Source Awards, and you just had all of this conflict and drama, and people were being shot, and guns were being pulled, and, these two guys were just unable to manage, both him and Suge, unable to manage this escalating conflict that ultimately led to Pac and Biggie's death. So, they were young guys at the time, and they could have done things differently in order to try to find out how to create an environment where people didn't need to get shot. But it spiraled out of control, and these guys failed to control it.
Now, Greg, I want to ask you about Keefe D. I actually have a couple questions about Keefe D. Now, in the documentary, you first approached him because of the Biggie murder. Then, of course, he told you about the Tupac thing. So what did he say about the Tupac shooting that made you believe what he was saying? Like, were you skeptical of him at first, and then what was the thing that he said that made it believable for you?
Good question. So, of course, we're always skeptical, but there was also a very clear understanding that we knew he was in Vegas. We knew he was the uncle of Orlando Anderson. We knew Orlando Anderson was the primary suspect in Tupac's shooting. He was the guy who had the immediate motive to shoot Tupac. And then we knew he was at the Biggie murder. He knew that he was running with the Southside Crips, and the Southside Crips were, doing some kind of quasi-security work for Bad Boy. So we knew he had all these really interesting connections to everything. And so we knew that, again, that he was the most likely guy to be able to shed some light on things. So when he tells us that his nephew's the one who shot and killed Tupac, it just made absolute sense in the world of how gangs operate. But then when he includes his affiliation with Puffy and the conversations they had, we started to get a little bit more skeptical until we understand clearer and be able to corroborate the stuff he was telling us. And then he was able to describe things at the crime scene where Tupac was actually shot in that immediate situation that he could not have known unless he was there. And so all of that stuff led itself to his credibility in that interview.
Yeah, one of the things there was two things for me that really hit me and made me believe him, and that was the other car that was in front of them at first, and you know what I mean, the girls, and his story kind of matched theirs. There was a little bit of a misunderstanding there with the shots fired and all that. But I guess in the heat of the moment that could be misconstrued. But the thing that really stuck to me was when you guys asked him if Biggie had anything to do with it. And to me, him saying no made me believe that story just because it sounds better to say Biggie would have known about it and Biggie had something to do with it. You know what I mean? Like that kind of adds to the to the whole theme of the hip hop world that this was a rap related beef. Like, it would have made sense to make that part up, but he said no, Biggie had nothing to do with it, and that made me think, like, this guy's really telling the truth, because that would be an easy thing to lie about. You know what I mean? It would be, more exciting to lie about that. So those two things made me really think that he was telling the truth.
Yeah, and along that line of logic, because I agree with you completely, he could have just simply said, yeah, my nephew did it. He shot him because they jumped him and he was just retaliating, and left it at that. But why add the whole, Puffy component if that's not true? It doesn't help him. It doesn't benefit him or make things easier for him, because he's in a situation when he's providing this information that if we disprove any aspect of it, if there's anything about it that he lies about, all the bets are off the table. So it only benefits him to tell the truth.
This evidence that you've uncovered, Greg, and Keefe D and all this stuff, why do you think there's been no charges brought up against, people like Puffy? And I know a lot of the other players are dead, but why do you think there's not some type of investigation against Puffy?
Well, there always was, and in law enforcement, we believe Keefe D's confession, and we accept it as being the valid explanation of what took place. But if you look at how you would go about prosecuting this, you've got to get a district attorney, most likely out of Las Vegas, to say, all right, I'm going to put allegations, solicitation for murder allegations against one of the most richest and influential hip-hop moguls in the world, and my star witness is a confessed gang member, confessed murderer, a confessed drug dealer, a convicted drug dealer, and you really are going to have trouble convincing a jury based on the testimony of a guy who's lied in the past about it, a guy who's been to prison for drugs, so it's not practical under those circumstances to think you're going to win a case like that. And when you don't have a good chance at winning, you don't prosecute.